Welcome back to episode 140 of the Guardian Project podcast. I'm your host, Andy, officially completed.
Oh, you are? You're fully robot now?
That would be nice. I think if I was a planeswalker officially completed, I would cost like one hybrid Azorius, and I would have something that happens when I die. So I can go back to the command zone. I don't know what it would be. When I die, reanimate something.
Oh, that'd be
Busted.
nice. But you wouldn't have like a passive ability of other players can't cast spells until Andy leaves the battlefield or anything like that.
No, I feel like it'd have to be really low power to give me a hybrid Phyrexian mana single cost.
Best planeswalker ever. And I'm your other host, Mike, and I really like how Go Shintai is going to play in our pods, in our meta. I think the strategy really shines through.
That was a good one. I'll accept that. I'm not going to boo you on that. Nope, not this time.
Please listen carefully.
And this is the podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering.
But mostly Commander.
So one fun announcement, I guess maybe not fun because it might be a little confusing for people that opened this card, but there has been a statement posted on Saiba Trass-Passers that says it has come to our attention that the English printed version of Saiba Trass-Passers, the Saiba Trass-Passers from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty does not list the appropriate creature type. So it is actually printed as a Merfolk ninja in English, but it says no matter how much you want it to be, they are not, in fact, ninjas. The creature type is supposed to be a Moonfolk rogue. So that is going to be reflected correctly on all other printings in all other languages on Magic Arena and on Magic Online. So Saiba Trass-Passers, oh my gosh, I cannot say Trespassers.
It's tough.
It really is. I'm struggling. It's a 3/5 artifact creature.
Moonfolk Rogue.
Yes, for 5 mana. And it has channel to discard it, and you can tap 2 creatures you don't control, and then they don't untap during their controller's next untap step. If anybody's playing this in a ninja deck and they're playing it in their, Yuriko or their new ninja from this set, I would never say anything because I'm probably going to forget that it's supposed to be a rogue over a ninja in just a few short weeks.
What if we have a little bit of compromise? They can use it as a ninja if they say Saiba Trass-Passers 5 times fast.
And they don't pronounce it wrong like me.
You have to do it right every single time.
Every time. We also got to pick up our pre-orders for Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. We both pre-ordered some stuff. We got some set boosters. Open anything fun?
I opened 3 of the 5 Myogen, so I'm missing the green and blue Myogen.
So those are the commander cards inserted into the collector's boosters and the set boosters.
So they're set booster exclusives, and that not even commander cards. Because I was thinking about this too, because there was a black card that I thought was going to be a commander only card, and then set booster supplement. But the 2 precons don't have black in it, so it's totally just a set booster exclusive card.
Correct. They're calling them the commander cards that are exclusive to the set boosters.
I got you.
So yeah, they're like meant for commander.
Yes, but yes, those. So the Myogen of Grim Betrayal, of Roaring Blades, and of Blooming Dawn. I opened. No idea if I'm actually going to put them in a deck. But it's cool that I opened them. I opened a Junji, the Midnight Sky, which I'm probably going to build that deck eventually. I opened my Haitsugu Consumes All in my very first pack that I opened out of my set booster. So that was a card we talked about last week that I'm going to put into my Jessica Falthus deck. So pretty excited about that. And, some channel lands in there too that I'll probably have to buy 2,000 more of to fill in all of my decks.
2,000 more?
2,000 more. Yeah, it's a very specific number that doesn't exist yet. It's math,
I opened up the Tamiyo Completed Sage, so that was really exciting.
Yeah.
I got the Jin-Gitaxias in both the regular printing, and we got one in the Phyrexian text.
Nice.
So, you're all welcome. And then I did open up the legendary vehicle that can also be your commander, the Shurikai Genesis engine.
That's so
which
good.
This card is really, really cool. I know we didn't talk on our episode last week about the actual pre-con decks and the cards that come in those, but I think and we don't often have this where we completely agree, but we were very much more interested in the vehicles deck than we were in the modified deck. But when we talk about, on our show today, we'll certainly see some more stuff. The one thing that I was sad that I did not open was the Yoshimaru Ever Faithful, the new dog legendary creature has partner. I really would like a copy of that because that is really, really strong in Niambi because it's just for legendary permanents entering the battlefield.
Right.
And I play like 20 legendary lands in that deck.
Yeah.
So I can have one giant dog. I mean, a lot of people are going to sack it as a partner deck with what's that Black Planeswalker that has partner?
Oh my goodness. Giant tentacly boy.
One tentacle boy. It's Jessica and partners with the other one, that one, and they're all going to sacrifice the dog to it.
Yeah,
I can't believe it.
I mean,
believe it.
I can actually believe it, I suppose. I mean,
it's pretty good. So, we opened a lot of fun stuff. So if you have opened up cards, tweet at us. We'd love to see them. And if you want to support us, you can head to patreon.com/guardianprojectpod and donate for any dollar amount.
And if you're looking for another way to support the podcast, whatever platform you are enjoying the podcast on now, if you could subscribe, rate, review, and leave comments, we'd be most appreciative.
And you can find us online at theguardianprojectpodcast.com. We stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Guardian Project Podcast. You can find our social media on Twitter at Guardian Pod and on Instagram, Guardian Project Podcast, and our gameplay videos on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/The Guardian Project. And you can email us at guardianprojectpod@gmail.com. What is on the agenda this week?
This week, it's our second episode after the full release of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. So as per usual, we are going to review our favorite combos by going on over to commanderspellbook.com and look at some of these brand new combos that have been enabled by new cards here from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty.
All right, I'm going to put down this card. I'm going to put down this card. Oops, I win. It's a combo. So in case you aren't aware, commanderspellbook.com is a really amazing tool for Commander players where you can type in either a commander or you can type in a card that you're looking for that combos with something. To find combos that work out for your deck, you're not only going to find maybe game-winning combos, but some super combos that are really interesting, maybe convoluted, but at its base, it's a really, really cool tool to find super synergistic cards for your decks and to really up some strategies that you're playing with. So we really like to go through these after every set has been fully previewed and talk about some of the combos that we think are just really cool and that we would play.
Yeah. So sometimes we even do it like when we're doing deck techs and stuff too for other people. Maybe we don't have any suggestions. We'll just pop on over to Commander Spellbook and go, oh, I didn't realize that this guy had an infinite combo that just got enabled, a set and a half ago that I missed. It's like a tool that we would use alongside like edhrec.com or something like that. So if you're not using it, you need to start.
Yeah, check it out, because if you're looking for ways to close out games, or maybe your decks are not doing what you want them to do, and maybe you want to give it a little bit more oomph, you can do that. Even some style points. So let's start out with 5 colors. We'll start with the most, and then we'll scale it back after this. And let's start with a combo that is going to result in infinite turns. And I guess I should also mention that this feels like an extra turns episode because there's so many extra turn combos that have been enabled with these new cards. So we did try to split them all up. So you're not going to hear us talk about 11 in a row. It might not be 11, but it's quite a lot. So this first one here is Go Shintai of Life's Origin. So this is the new Commander exclusive card that would come in these set boosters. And it is a legendary enchantment creature shrine. It's a 3/4 for 3 and a green. And it has an activated ability of pay Wooburg, so white, blue, black, red, green, and you tap it to return target enchantment from your graveyard to the battlefield. And whenever Go Shintai of Life's Origin or another non-token shrine enters the battlefield under your control, you create a 1/1 colorless shrine enchantment creature token. So it's really it looks at face value. as the best shrine commander. We certainly have the new Sisei that had come out, the newer Sisei that people were using as a shrine commander. I have a feeling we'll see a lot more of this. But combining that with an enchantment, quite old, Second Chance. It's an enchantment for 2 and a blue that says during your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, sacrifice Second Chance and take an extra turn after this one. So all you have to do is have both Ghost Shintai of Life's Origin and Second Chance on the battlefield, and you just need to have 5 or less life. So you're in 5 colors. You can easily make that happen with lots of cards to pay life or whatever. And what you do is at the beginning of your upkeep, Second Chance is going to trigger. You sacrifice it, and you're going to take an extra turn. And then you're going to activate Ghost Shintai of Life's Origin and pay 5 mana and return Second Chance from your graveyard to the battlefield. And you're just going to do that every single turn. And since Second Chance enters the battlefield, you're going to make a 1/1 colorless shrine enchantment creature token. So you will at least be able to show, I'm making a creature, I can close out the game. I'm not like looking for another card here.
So actually, the second ability is whenever another non-token shrine enters a battlefield under your control.
Oh, that's correct. So it's not just making a shrine. So well, okay. So you're probably playing other shrines.
You got to play. You definitely are playing other shrines.
Probably playing at least one shrine.
I really do love this as like a game-ending combo for a shrines deck, because if you haven't played a shrines deck before, played against a shrines deck before, you're going to see it's a little bit of a grindy type of deck that's all about incremental. Putting your opponent at a disadvantage somehow, whether that's taking away their life, making them discard cards, or milling them. But it's going to take a lot of turns and a lot of upkeep triggers in order to do that. So I love this as an infinite turns combo way to end the game. We saw this last time I saw Second Chance. It goes infinite with like Muldrotha too, because you can just cast it from your graveyard.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
You do have to get your life total down to 5 or less, which is easy with like a Necropotence or something like that. And any way to pay life. And you're in 5 colors with Ghost Shintai, so I'm sure there's even more ways than you could with Muldrotha before. So definitely, if you're not considering a win con in your Shrines deck, please do. And Second Chance is a great option here.
Yeah.
So one of the legendary dragon creatures that I really liked it. I mean, all the legendary dragons have death triggers, which I love. I love playing with my graveyard and everything. But one of the best ones, I will say, is the mono red one, Atsushi, the Blazing Sky. Atsushi is a 4-mana 4/4 dragon spirit. So for 2 red, you get a 4/4 flying trample dragon spirit that says when Atsushi, the Blazing Sky, dies, you choose one. You either exile the top 2 cards of your library, and until end of turn, the end of your next turn, you may play those cards, or you create 3 treasure tokens. That's going to be the important death trigger that we're talking about here, is creating those 3 treasure tokens in combination with 2 of my favorite cards in all of Magic the Gathering. We have Ashnod's Altar for 3 generic mana. It's an artifact that says sacrifice a creature to add 2 colorless to your mana pool. And Nim Deathmantle, a 2-mana artifact equipment that says equipped creature gets +2/+2, has Intimidate, and is a black zombie. And the important part of the text here, whenever a non-token creature is put into your graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 4 generic mana, and if you do, return that card to the battlefield and attach Nim Deathmantle to it. It also has an equip cost of 4, but we're hopefully getting around that equip cost by killing Atsushi with Ashnod's Altar. So you have to have Atsushi, Nim Deathmantle, and Ashnod's Altar on the battlefield in order to begin the combo. You kill Atsushi with Ashnod's Altar, sending it to your graveyard, adding 2 generic mana to your mana pool. You use Atsushi's second ability to create 3 treasure tokens, which you now have 3 of any color and 2 colorless, which allows you to pay 4 mana into Nim Deathmantle to return Atsushi to the battlefield, leaving you with 1 treasure token or 1 colorless mana if you decided to do it that way, I suppose. But you get 1 treasure token. You can repeat this to infinitum to get infinite treasure tokens. You have enter the battlefield and death triggers. And on top of that, you can actually continue to loop it. Since you now have infinite treasure tokens, you consider yourself to have infinite mana, continue to loop Atsushi to then exile your entire graveyard if you want to, with Atsushi's other death trigger. So lots of ways you can win that way. You know, you'll end up exiling your win cons and be able to play them. So very
and we're
cool.
exiling what, the top 2 cards of our library, right?
Yeah, exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. I'm going to talk about another infinite turns combo here, but this one is in 4 colors. So some of you may have heard of Atraxa, pretty popular commander. It is 4 colors, green, white, blue, black, a 4/4 flying, vigilance, death touch, lifelink, angel horror that says at the beginning of your end step you proliferate. So you can put extra counters that are already on a permanent. You can put an extra one onto that permanent. And we've seen lots of combos with the card Sage of Hours before. So Sage of Hours is a 1/1 human wizard for 1 and a blue. It has heroics, so whenever you cast a spell that targets it, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. But it says when you remove all +1/+1 counters from it, for every 5 you remove, you can take an extra turn. With the new card, Myogen of Towering Might, you can go infinite. So Myogen of Towering Might is an 8/8 spirit, legendary creature for 5 green, green, green. It says when it enters the battlefield, it enters with an indestructible counter on it if you cast it from your hand. So you are going to have to cast it from your hand. And then it says remove an indestructible counter from Myogen of Towering Might. You distribute 8 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. They gain trample until end of turn. So all you have to do here is have all 3 of these cards on the battlefield. Myogen of Towering Might has to have at least 1 indestructible counter on it, and you're going to have to proliferate that, because you can't remove the last counter. So essentially at the beginning of your end step, Atraxa is going to put an extra indestructible counter on Myogen. You activate Myogen by removing 1 of those indestructible counters, and you put 5 +1/+1 counters on Sage of Hours, and the remaining 3 +1/+1 counters really on any creature you want, because you have to remove all the counters at the same time, so it might not really make sense to put all of them on Sage of Hours. And then you take an extra turn by removing all those +1/+1 counters from Sage of Hours, so removing all 5, and you repeat this every turn. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of mana for this one, but it is nice that you have access to this in 4 colors. Is this the best extra turn that you could do probably in these colors? Maybe not, but if you're playing an Atraxa extra turns deck, you've got another combo here.
For sure. Even in Atraxa +1/+1 counters deck, you might accidentally be playing these 2 cards already in your decks. That's totally cool. So the face commander for the modified deck is going to be the next new card we're talking about here, and that's Chishiro the Shattered Blade. So this is a 4 mana 4/4 Snake Samurai. So for 2, a red and a green, you get a legendary creature that says whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with menace. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each modified creature you control. That part of our commander really isn't going to matter, but the other 3 cards in this combo are Crown of Flames, which is a 1 mana enchant creature that has 2 activatable abilities. You can pay a red to have enchanted creature get +1/+0 until end of turn, or you can pay a red to return Crown of Flames to its owner's hand. That will be the important activatable ability of that card. We have Phyrexian Altar, one of my favorite cards in Magic. It is a 3 generic mana altar that allows you to sacrifice a creature to add 1 mana of any color. And then any token doubler. In this instance, we're looking at Parallel Lives, but you can do Primal Vigor or Doubling Season. And this is just going to say if an effect would create a token under your control, you create 2 of those tokens instead, or double the amount of tokens instead. So you're going to have Crown of Flames in your hand, all other permanents on the battlefield, 1 red available, and 1 other creature that can... you don't need another creature for this one. I'm thinking of a different combo that's later in the episode. So what you have to do is you have to cast Crown of Flames by paying the red mana that you have access to, targeting any creature you control. Crown of Flames will enter the battlefield, triggering Chishiro, creating your 2/2 spirit tokens. And you will get 2 of them because of your token doubler. You can activate Phyrexian Altar twice by sacrificing both. You can do 1 at a time. You have to sacrifice 1 for a red mana to return your Crown of Flames to your hand. And then you can sacrifice the other one to get the other red mana in order to cast your Crown of Flames. This allows you to have infinite enter the battlefield triggers, leave the battlefield triggers, death triggers, sacrifice triggers, and since you're casting the Crown of Flames every single time it gets returned to your hand, you're also going to have infinite storm count, which, I guess in red-green, those are kind of the best colors for storm. You would think blue, but I think the actual spells that you get off of it, like Grape Shot or Chatter Storm and stuff, that maybe you could build those into this deck and have 1,000,000 1/1 squirrels or do 1,000,000 damage to everybody's face.
Yeah. I think it's really cool. I was saying before we started recording today, Chishiro, it wasn't calling out to me. I mentioned earlier that we were much more interested in what the vehicles deck was doing, but after seeing some of these, I was like, oh man, this is a combo centric deck the way that I would build it, and I like it a lot. Now, let's shift over to a card that we talked about last week, a card that we were both excited for, Mirror Box. So this is the new card we're going to include in this combo, an artifact that costs 3 mana. It says the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1, and each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. This can actually go infinite here and give you infinite combat phases if you play it with Aurelia the War Leader and Splinter Twin, which is really, really cool. So Aurelia the War Leader is a 3/4 angel for 2 red, white. It has flying, vigilance, and haste. And it says whenever Aurelia the War Leader attacks for the first time each turn, untap all creatures you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. And when you pair that with Splinter Twin, so it is an enchantment aura for 2 red that says enchant creature. Enchanted creature has tap, put a token that's a copy of this creature onto the battlefield, and it has haste, exile it at the beginning of the next end step. So essentially you're going to put Splinter Twin on Aurelia, and you're going to be able to make copies of Aurelia that can swing on each extra combat. So you go to your combat phase, you attack with your Aurelia. Aurelia is going to trigger untapping all of your creatures, and you'll get an extra combat phase. Now, this Aurelia can't swing. It does say whenever it attacks for the first time, you untap all these creatures. I guess it can swing. It can't trigger this ability again.
Right.
So you tap it to make another copy of it with Splinter Twin.
Right.
And you go to that combat phase, and then that Aurelia is going to swing, untapping the original Aurelia and itself. And you're just going to end up taking infinite combats.
Yeah.
And they're all just going to get larger and larger because they're all non-token creatures that have the same name as each other.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, I like that. They're all going to get super big. And this to me feels like Helm of the Host at home.
Yes.
So this is your mom saying, I want to buy Helm of the Host. We have Helm of the Host at home. It's Mirror Box and Splinter Twin. So that's very, very cool. Let's stay on the Boros plan and keep talking about Mirror Box, though, because I think there's another really cool combo here. So again, we're talking about Mirror Box, like Andy just explained, but in combination now with a different angel. This is Gizella, Blade of Gold Knight, along with the equipment Blade of Selves. So Gizella, Blade of Gold Knight is an angel 5/5 for 4, a red, and a white. With flying and first strike, that says if a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that source deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. And if a source would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent half of that damage rounded up. That part of the text isn't really relevant. It's the double damage that we really care about here. And Blade of Selves is an equipment that I like to call Blade of the Myriad that says equipped creature has Myriad. And what that means is whenever that the equipped creature attacks for each opponent other than the defending player, you may create a token that's a copy of that creature that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. Exile the tokens at end of combat. So the combo is just having all 3 of these cards on the battlefield and having Blade of Selves attached to Gizella. Gizella doesn't have haste, so you have to find a way to either give Gizella haste or wait 1 turn until Gizella no longer has summoning sickness. And then you have to make it so that your opponents are unable to block flying creatures that you control, whether they just don't have blockers or you have a way of making them unblockable. And you have to have at least 3 opponents. But what this will allow you to do is attack with Gizella, trigger your Blade of Selves and the Myriad trigger to create 2 more tapped and attacking Gizellas that will not die because of your Mirror Box. And then each Gizella deals at least 48 combat damage to each opponent because you have the first Gizella that doubles, the next Gizella that doubles that, and the next Gizella that doubles that. So you're having double from your 5 power and getting you all the way up to 48. So it's a pretty crazy amount of damage.
Yeah, because the Mirror Box is giving +1/+1 for each creature that shares the same name as it. This one is a lot of math, but if you make it happen, chances are I will die. This one's very, very cool. Now let's jump back to one more extra turn combo here. So this is using Sage of Hours again. So this is one that we talked about. The 1/1 human wizard for 1 and a blue. If you have 5 +1/+1 counters on it, you can remove all of them. I guess you can remove them at any time, but as long as you have 5, you remove them, you're going to take an extra turn after this one. This works really well with a new card, Awakened Awareness. So this is an aura, enchant artifact or creature. It costs X blue, and it says when Awakened Awareness enters the battlefield, put X +1/+1 counters on enchanted permanent. As long as the enchanted permanent is a creature, it has base power and toughness 1/1. The reason this works is you do need one additional card here with either Shimmerwing Chimera or Riptide Chimera. So these are both cards that had come from Theros. One is from Theros Beyond Death, the other from Journey to Nyx. But what essentially these are doing is these are allowing you to return an enchantment you control to your hand at the beginning of your upkeep. So Shimmerwing Chimera is a flying creature that has at the beginning of your upkeep return up to one other target enchantment you control to its owner's hand. Riptide Chimera, again, a 3/4 flying creature that says at the beginning of your upkeep, return an enchantment you control to its owner's hand. So essentially what you have to do is you're playing Awakened Awareness for X = 5. So you're going to enchant your Sage of Hours and put 5 +1/+1 counters on it. You're going to remove those 5 +1/+1 counters to take an extra turn. When you go to your next turn, either the Shimmering Chimera or the Riptide Chimera will trigger, and you return the Awakened Awareness aura from the battlefield to your hand. You just have to have 7 mana available each turn. So it is mana intensive, but you're in mono blue. I mean, you can pair it with another color. A lot of extra turns decks are playing blue-green. I've seen the Sage of Hours in Voral decks, but again, this fits into the Atraxa deck we talked about earlier if someone was playing this. So another infinite turn using cards that we don't see. Shimmering Chimera, Riptide Chimera are not seen very often, and Awakened Awareness is a cool card that I did not have on my radar.
Yeah, very cool. And it's nice that you only need 7 mana to start it, and then hopefully every extra turn you take after that, you're hitting your land drops and all that kind of stuff. So you should eventually win. I sure hope you can, at least.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so let's go back to Chishiro here for a second, because there's another combo. Before we talked about an aura that we could return to our hand by spending 1 red mana. Now we're going to talk about an aura that's going to return to our hand automatically. So again, Chishiro, our new 4 mana Snake Samurai 4/4. The important part, whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with menace. Again, we have Phyrexian Altar here to sacrifice a creature and add 1 mana of any color. It's a 3 generic mana artifact. And our new aura here is a very old aura in Magic's history, and that's Rancor. So Rancor is a 1 green enchantment aura that says enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. And the important text here, when Rancor is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return Rancor to its owner's hand. So the prerequisites for this combo is Rancor in hand, all other permanents on the battlefield, 1 other creature. So I know I kind of messed up the last time I was talking about Chishiro here. For this one, you do need 1 other creature that isn't Chishiro that you're going to end up targeting with your Rancor. And then in order to start this combo, you do need to have 1 green mana available to cast Rancor at the beginning. So you're going to cast Rancor on your 1 non-Chishiro creature that you have. You'll be able to sacrifice that creature to make 1 green mana with your Phyrexian Altar. As that creature dies, Rancor is going to get returned to your hand. I skipped a little bit of a step. When you cast Rancor, Chishiro will trigger, creating the 2/2 spirit creature token for you. Rancor is going to go back to your hand. You're going to have 1 green floating from sacrificing your original creature to Phyrexian Altar. You're going to be able to recast your Rancor now on that 2/2 spirit, making another 2/2 spirit. You can sacrifice the one that has Rancor attached to it. And what this is going to end up doing is have infinite enter the battlefield triggers, infinite leave the battlefield triggers, infinite death triggers, infinite sacrifice triggers. And then also, since you're casting Rancor every single time, you're also going to have an infinite storm count.
So if you're running this, maybe you run this with some Enchantress cards. You could do that, or add like a card like Impact Tremors, right? And whenever a creature enters, you're going to deal a damage. So you could close out the game pretty quickly. And this seems to fit pretty easily, I guess, into the other Chishiro combo. They're using similar,
For sure.
Similar cards for similar reasons, right?
And we even talked about some of these other combos having token doublers and stuff in that.
Right.
And you throw that in there, now you're talking about infinite mana and all that. And there's and even doubling season with Shishiro with the whole modified thing, doubling your counters, doubling your tokens. It just seems like they would be a shoo-in in the deck. Maybe a little expensive for some people's tastes, but it does work to help the combo out. Right.
We have an infinite colorless mana here, using cards that we have not seen used in this way before. So the new card here is Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh, legendary planeswalker Tezzeret, 4 loyalty for 2 blue. Tezzeret says the first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate, and then it has 3 loyalty abilities. So there's a +1 to draw 2 cards, and then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact. A -2 to have target artifact become an artifact creature. If it isn't a vehicle, it has base power and toughness 4/4. And then -6, you get an emblem with whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, you can draw a card. So if you pair that with cards that will tap for mana, quite a bit of mana, and you can turn them into a creature somehow, we can go infinite. So we're looking here at Basalt Monolith and Training Grounds. So we've seen cards like Training Grounds and Basalt Monolith before. Basalt Monolith, pretty popular to be paired with like a Mesmeric Orb to, mill yourself, self-mill. And Training Grounds is an enchantment that says activated abilities of creatures you control cost up to 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the amount of mana less than 1, and that just costs 1 blue. And Basalt Monolith is an artifact. It taps for three colorless mana, and you have to pay 3 to untap it, and it doesn't untap during your untap step. So essentially, you need to just have all 3 of these cards on the battlefield. Tezzeret needs to have at least 2 loyalty because we're going to use that -2 ability to turn an artifact into a creature. So you're going to activate Tezzeret to turn that Basalt Monolith into a 4/4 creature, and then Basalt Monolith can't have summoning sickness, so it needs to have been out for like at least a turn. Mm-hmm. So you turn the Basalt Monolith into a 4/4 creature. Training Ground says you can reduce the activated abilities of creatures by 2. So you can tap the Basalt Monolith to make 3 mana. You activate its second ability, because it costs 2 less now. Instead of paying 3 to untap it, you pay 1 to untap it. So you are netting 2 mana. You're getting infinite colorless here. And I guess if you have tap triggers that matter whenever something becomes tapped, you also have that.
Yeah, or maybe you, in combination with like a chromatic Ori or something, you can filter that colorless mana into colored mana or something. But it is cool to see Basalt Monolith. I mean, maybe some people are sick of seeing Basalt Monolith comboing, but we've seen it like Zerta the Dawnwaker that doesn't care if it's a creature. Any permanent activated ability will cost 1 less from Ikoria. That was the plane that one was from.
It was.
And then Rings of Brighthearth that can double activated ability triggers. But again, those are really expensive. And I guess Training Grounds is pretty expensive too. But it's cool to see it all in one color in mono blue here, using our new Tezzeret friend. So right. Awesome. So here is another combo that we have definitely seen this combination of cards before.
Yes.
But we're going to look at it in a little bit of a newer way, I suppose.
A different light.
A different light to the same combo, but still very, very strong. So this is using 2 brand new cards, and really it could use only one brand new card, but we got another card that's going to reduce costs of our artifact spells in Enthusiastic Mechanaut. So Enthusiastic Mechanaut for blue and a red, you get a 2/2 Goblin Artificer with flying that says artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. In combination with another brand new card we have, the Reality Chip, our legendary artifact creature equipment jellyfish. For 1 and a blue, you get a 0/4 that says you can look at the top card of your library, and it has reconfigure for 2 and a blue. And as it is reconfigured onto one of your creatures or vehicles, you can then play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. Now, in combination with on flavor, a Kamigawa card, Sensei's Divining Top, for 1 generic mana, you get an artifact that has pay 1 generic to look at the top 3 cards of your library and put them back in any order, or tap to draw a card and then put Sensei's Divining Top on top of its owner's library. So if you have all 3 of these cards on the battlefield with Reality Chip modifying any creature, it could be even modifying Enthusiastic Mechanaut if you want, so that you only have to have these 3 permanents on the battlefield. What it's going to allow you to do is draw a card using Sensei's Divining Top's activatable ability, put Sensei's Divining Top on top of your library, and since Enthusiastic Mechanaut is reducing cost of artifacts by 1, Sensei's Divining Top's new casting cost is 0, so you can cast it for 0 right off the top of your library and repeat that until you've drawn your hand, or if you want to actually cast something that's on the top of your library that isn't Sensei's Divining Top, it does give you pseudo Infinite Storm. Technically, you're limited by how many cards you have left in your library, but you'll be able to draw your entire deck, and you're already in blue, so maybe you're playing a Thassa's Oracle type of win condition already, and you'll win that way.
Yeah, Lab Maniac or Jace Wielder of Mysteries. Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. We've seen it before, like you said, with things like Aetherflux Reservoir and Bolas's Citadel when you're in black. So cool to see. And is it there? All right, we have another extra infinite turns combo here. So this is with Heiko Yamazaki the General. Heiko Yamazaki the General is a legendary human samurai. It's a 3/3 with trample for 3 and a red, and says whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you may cast target artifact card from your graveyard this turn. If you pair this with something that we have seen before in the past, cards Core Tapper and Magistrate Scepter, you can go infinite. So Magistrate Scepter is an artifact that costs 3 mana. It says pay 4 and tap it to put a charge counter on Magistrate Scepter. And then you can tap it, remove 3 counters from Magistrate Scepter to take an extra turn. So it's quite a bit of mana to do. And with Core Tapper, it's a 1/1 artifact mirror, and it costs 2 mana and says tap, put a charge counter on target artifact. You can sacrifice Core Tapper and put 2 charge counters on target artifact. So all you have to do is put all these permanents on the battlefield. The Core Tapper does not have Summoning Sickness because you're going to be able to tap that to put a charge counter on something. And then you have a samurai or a warrior that can attack each turn. An opponent cannot block or kill it. So it can be Heiko Yamazaki. But again, you're relying on the fact that an opponent doesn't have a creature. And then you just have to have 2 colorless mana. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to activate Core Tapper's ability and put a charge counter on the Magistrate Scepter. So you've got 1 of the 3 that you need. Then you're going to activate Core Tapper's second ability by sacrificing it. And you're going to put 2 more charge counters on Magistrate Scepter. Then you activate the Scepter, you tap it, and you remove the 3 counters on it. Now you're going to have an extra turn lined up. So now you go to combat, and you attack with any warrior or samurai, and no other attackers. It has to be just 1. Heiko is going to trigger, and then you can cast that Core Tapper from your graveyard, and then you cast it by paying 2 colorless mana, and then you go to your next turn. So we've seen combos before, and not related to this deck, we've seen where cards that like Port Razor, you can, if someone doesn't have a blocker, the game can kind of just end, and not even just Port Razor, but things have happened before. And if you can land into a position where somebody can't block, you can just take one person out at a time and then just deal with a one-on-one game, but the stars align when people can't block any of your creatures. And if you're taking extra turns, assuming you're going to make your land drops, you might be able to play cards like Access Tunnel, which gives Heiko Yamazaki unblockable. Another reason to play Access Tunnel.
I'm glad you said it because I was just about to suggest it. For 3 more
Rogue's
generic
Passage,
mana.
okay.
Yes, 3 more generic mana and an Access Tunnel, and all of a sudden you don't need another creature.
Yeah, so you got extra turns here in mono red, infinite turns in mono red. But I've seen Magistrate Scepter played in Simic decks, in blue-green decks before. So this is it's cool to see, and I would like to see it. Yes,
I would too. But I pulled a card that is a set booster exclusive, one of those commander cards that is going to go infinite. Another one of these Myogen. Actually, no. You know what, Andy? I'm going to leave that one to you. Why don't you walk us through the Myogen of
Blooming Dawn?
Yeah.
So this is another one of the set and collector booster exclusives. So Myogen of Blooming Dawn is a 4/6 legendary spirit, 5 white. So 8 mana, and it says when it enters the battlefield, it has an indestructible counter on it if you cast it from your hand. So again, you must cast this from your hand. And then it says remove an indestructible counter from Myogen of Blooming Dawn. And you create a 1/1 spirit creature for each permanent you control. So permanents, that include your lands. If you pair this with Phyrexian Altar, which we've mentioned already, an artifact, it lets you sack a creature to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool, and the card Viral Drake. It's a 1/4 flying infect creature for 3 and a blue, and it says pay 3 and a blue to proliferate. So essentially, all you have to do is have all of these permanents on the battlefield. Myogen of Blooming Dawn has to have an indestructible counter on it, and then you're going to need at least 2 other permanents. So it can be lands, it could be creature, it could be whatever you want. And then you have 4 mana to proliferate with your Viral Drake. So you proliferate, and you get an extra indestructible counter on Myogen of Blooming Dawn. You remove an indestructible counter from it, and you make a 1/1 spirit for each permanent you control. So assuming you make at least 5, you can activate the Phyrexian Altar by sacrificing 4 spirit tokens, adding 3 mana of any color to your mana pool. You rinse and repeat, and you're gonna make infinite creature tokens. You can have infinite color mana, infinite enters the battlefield, leaves the battlefield, death triggers, sacrifice triggers, whatever you want in Azorius.
That's fantastic.
I think it's really cool. I didn't know if I was going to see these Myogens appear anywhere combo-wise,
right.
And they are very expensive and have to be cast in your hands. You actually have to do the thing. You can't just reanimate it. I thought about this for Niambi, and I was like, it's just going to be a 4/6 then.
Right.
Because I don't usually cast the cards in Niambi.
Right. Now, I was thinking about this since we talked about that, and there is a permanent that they released in Ikoria called the Ozolith. That you could technically get indestructible counters on the Ozolith and then transfer them to a Myogen. And I think there's easier ways to get indestructible counters in Ikoria. So maybe there is actually like a viable line, because we were talking about how Myogen as commanders were, a little bit weird, because without returning them to your hand and casting them for your hand, you'll never get the indestructible counter, and then really it's just a big vanilla creature at that point.
Right.
So yeah, no, I'd love to see if you already have like the Ozolith in your Myogen deck. I want to see your deck list, because I want to see what you're doing with it.
Yeah, tweet at us with your Myogen deck list.
Yes. Okay. Weaver of Harmony is another creature that we're seeing combo off here, and people, honestly, I like this card outside of just comboing as well, to double our enchantment triggers. So Weaver of Harmony for 1 and a green, we get a 2/2 enchantment creature Snake Druid. It says other enchantment creatures you control get +1/+1, and has an activated ability of pay a green, tap, and copy target activated or triggered ability you control from an enchantment source. You may choose new targets for the copy. We are going to combo that with Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest from M21.
Fruitful Harvest.
Fruitful Harvest. It's a harvest of fruit, and we are very full about it.
Yes.
So this is a 2 and a green legendary enchantment shrine. This is at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase. Add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of shrines you control, and an equipment that everyone loves for their Kiki Jiki decks out there, for their Cranko Mob Boss decks out there. Wrong goblin, my bad. Umbral Mantle. Umbral Mantle is a 3 generic mana equipment. This is equipped creature, has pay 3, untap this creature, and it gets +2/+2 until end of turn, and has an equip cost for 0. So the prerequisites for this combat are all permanents on the battlefield. Umbral Mantle is attached to Weaver of Harmony. Weaver of Harmony does not have Summoning Sickness, and you control at least 4 other shrines.
So we're assuming you're probably playing this in your shrine deck with Goshentai, or even the Sisei Weatherlight Captain, or the new one.
It's a little misleading to call this combo mono green, with that caveat of at least 4 other shrines. But you do need to have at least 1 green available in order to start the combo. And what you're going to be doing is at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, your Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest is going to trigger. Holding priority, you're going to be able to activate Weaver of Harmony by paying the 1 green mana that you had in order to copy Sanctum of Fruitful Harvest ability. When it resolves, you're going to be adding at least 5 green mana per trigger, and then activate Weaver of Harmony by paying 3 and untapping it, and it gives +2/+2 until end of turn, and you'll be able to pay 1 of the green back into it to double the trigger again, get another 5 green mana out of it. And what it's going to do is give you infinite colored mana, because once you get enough green mana, you can say, I activate this until I have a billion green mana. Then you can start activating it with your billion green mana to make mana of all the other colors that you want.
Right.
And then you will also have an infinitely large Weaver of Harmony in case you can somehow swing to win. So maybe even before you activate it first, before it gets to 4 power, you're going to want to activate your access tunnel on Weaver of Harmony.
Yeah, you activate the access tunnel real early, or I guess you can have a backup Rogue's Passage.
I guess. I mean, why not both? Why not both?
Yeah, this is really cool. Again, it really only fits in a Shrine deck.
Mm-hmm. Maybe Changeling Tribal. It's possible.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, no. Shrine
is not a creature type.
That's right.
This is an enchantment type.
That's right. Never mind.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, you're going to be playing a Shrine deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shrine deck. So very, very cool. All right, we have another extra turn. This one is really cool though, because it's another Moonfolk that's going to take an extra turn. And I used to play Moloku the Clouded Mirror, but that is not what this is. But it is using similar cards, but adding a color for Tamishi Reality Architect. So this is a legendary creature, Moonfolk Wizard. It's a 2/3 for 2 and a blue. And it says whenever one or more non-creature permanents are returned to hand, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. And Tamishi has an ability that says pay X and a white, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and return target artifact or enchantment card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. So this is just a really cool card to just do generic things with, but it can do some pretty gross things like take infinite turns. Mm-hmm. So if you pair this with an extra turn spell, it can really be any extra turn spell that isn't going to get exiled. So for example, Walk the Aeons, it says target player takes an extra turn after this for 4 blue. And you pair that with Mystic Sanctuary. So Mystic Sanctuary is an island from Throne of Eldraine. It says when it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. And when it enters the battlefield untapped, put target instant or sorcery from your graveyard on top of your library. And finally, you can pair this with either Urza's Bauble or Mishra's Bauble. So these are both 0 mana artifacts. Urza's Bauble says, tap it, sacrifice it, look at a card at random in target player's hand, and then you draw a card at the beginning of the next upkeep. And Mishra's Bauble says, tap it, look at the top card of target player's library, draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. So essentially what you have to have here is all your permanents have to be on the battlefield and your extra turn spell has to be in hand. You're able to put a land into play, so you have to be able to play your Mystic Sanctuary. You still have to have 3 other islands because it's going to have to come in untapped, and you have to have 7 mana available. So you have to be able to activate Tamishi to return a land to your hand, and you have to have the mana to cast your extra turn spell. So that mana you need to have available is going to differ based on the extra turn spell of your choice. So essentially here, you're going to activate either your Urza's Bauble or your Mishra's Bauble by tapping and sacrificing it, looking at a card at random or on top of someone's library. And then on your next turn, you'll draw a card at the beginning of that turn's upkeep. Then you're going to activate Tamishi by paying a white mana. So X is 0. You're going to return that Mystic Sanctuary from the battlefield to your hand. And then you're going to put your artifact that costs 0 mana from the graveyard onto the battlefield. You're going to cast your extra turn spell, and you're going to take an extra turn after this one. And then you play your Mystic Sanctuary for turn. You're going to put your extra turn spell from your graveyard on top of your library. And now your artifact is back onto the battlefield. And when you move to your next turn, you're going to draw a card at your upkeep, and you're going to end up drawing your extra turn spell and then a card for turn. So you're going to just take infinite turns here. So you've taken a combo deck that was already very good in mono blue with Moloku, and you've added white to get some of the best removal in the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is pretty nasty. I expect to see this appear a couple of times, but I don't know if I have the heart to do it again.
Oh,
I don't know if I can do it. I don't know.
We'll go to another Command Fest and play two-headed giant CEDH commander and get blown out by someone playing an enchantment called Stranglehold that makes it so that I can't tutor with the 4 tutors that are in my hand.
Yeah, exactly. So let's pick 2 more here.
Sure.
And wrap up our show this week.
Absolutely. So I'm going to pick one that isn't an extra turns combo.
Sure.
I'm going to pick one that actually includes the color black. So this is, again, using the legendary artifact creature equipment jellyfish, the Reality Chip. Which is, again, a 2-mana 0/4 with reconfigure for 2 and a blue. And when it's reconfigured on something, it allows you to cast spells from the top of your library or play lands. In combination with an enchantment called Mortuary for 3 and a black. An enchantment says whenever any creature is put into your graveyard from play, put that creature on top of your library. And then any creature that both costs 0 and has base toughness 0. And you might think, I don't understand. I don't know any creatures that are like that. They're typically X spell creatures, and they get +1/+1 counters depending on what the X is. So like Endless One is an Eldrazi for X. It's a 0/0. It gets X +1/+1 counters. Hangerback Walker is another one. XX enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters. And Walking Ballista is another one. XX enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters. But it doesn't matter because we're going to be casting them for 0 in this combination anyways. So what we want is Hangerback Walker or any of those X spell creatures in our hand. All other permanents on the battlefield, and Reality Chip is reconfigured onto one of the creatures that we have. We're going to cast Hangerback Walker for 0. It's going to automatically die due to state-based actions for having 0 toughness. Mortuary is going to trigger putting Hangerback Walker back on top of our library. And since the Reality Chip is configured to one of our creatures, we can cast stuff from the top of our library, and we'll again cast Hangerback Walker for 0. Killing it, goes to the graveyard, goes back to the top of our library, and we will just repeat that infinitely to have infinite enter the battlefield, leave the battlefield, death triggers, and since we are casting the spell from the top of our library every time, infinite storm count.
Yeah, you'll probably want another card to cast because if you're not going to, I guess if you just keep doing this, you're not going to actually advance in any additional cards. But assuming you have more than just the Reality Chip on something and just these, this is pretty cool. And we did get to add black, and we're not doing infinite turns for this combo.
Maybe you can add like a Grim Horsepex in here that allows you to draw a card, because technically you don't have to cast Hangerback Walker or the other X spell from the top of your library. You could cast it from your hand and just like net one card every single time. So maybe you'll do something like that.
Yeah. Let's end on mono red here with a new card, Goro Goro, Disciple of Ryosei. So this is a 2/2 Goblin Samurai for 1 and a red that has pay 1 red, creatures you control gain haste until end of turn, which I think is such a strong card, and I'm not looking forward to losing to many a goblin decks that just add this. But it also has a second ability for 5 mana, so 3 red. It says create a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. Activate only if you control an attacking modified creature. So again, modified is, it has an equipment on it, or there's an aura, or there's a counter on a creature. Those are modifications to the creature. You're going to pair this with cards, Mana Echoes, or like a Mycosynth Lattice, or even Chromatic Orrery. So Mana Echoes is an enchantment that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you may add you may add an amount of colorless equal to the number of creatures you control that share a type with it. And then Mycosynth Lattice says all permanents are artifacts, all cards that aren't on the battlefield, spells and permanents are colorless, but players may spend mana as though it were any mana or mana of any color. So if this is out, when you get that mana from Mana Echoes, you'll be able to pay with that colorless into like a red ability. Mm-hmm. So what you need is you need to have all these permanents on the battlefield, and you have to have at least 4 dragons or spirits. So however you get those, you will need them for this combo. And then you need to have a modified creature that can attack this turn. So I'm assuming if you have a Goro Goro deck, you probably have a couple of equipment. I mean, you're probably building around this combo if you're putting this specifically together. I don't think we're probably just going to happenstance upon this combo very easily. So what you're going to do is you're going to declare attacking with a modified creature. Mm-hmm. Holding priority, you're going to activate Goro Goro by paying 5 mana, colorless mana, filtering it through that Mycosynth Lattice for red to activate Goro Goro's ability to make a 5/5 red dragon spirit creature token with flying. that creature is going to enter the battlefield, which triggers mana echoes and is going to add at least 5 more mana. And this is going to continue to grow over time, resulting in infinite creature tokens, colored mana, colorless mana, and enter the battlefield abilities. So again, pairing this with a card like Impact Tremors or Goblin Bombardment to sacrifice all of them. But all of this is happening during combat, so they can't be declared as an attacker. They're just coming in to hang out.
Oh, just combo it up with like a coat of arms or something. That way the
few that
dragons,
did the one that did attack.
Yeah. Then the unblocked dragons get huge or something. But, you know, if I look at it like a generic goblin deck or something, a lot of them are playing mana echoes in there already. And Goro probably is going to go in there because it's just a great haste enabler that's also a goblin. So all you got to do is pick your hands up on a Chromatic Ori or a Mycosynth Lattice. But you're right. I don't know if there's other reasons in a goblin deck to play a Mycosynth Lattice or a Chromatic Ori. So that would be kind of a build around and add in here. But very, very cool. And the fact that mana echoes will work with all your goblins too is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it works with the goblins that are coming in because it might get you the mana to ramp into some of these spells. I mean, Mycosynth Lattice costs 6. Chromatic Ori, I believe, is even more than 6. So, very cool stuff here. So, and this isn't even all the combos. Again, these are just the ones that we thought were a lot of fun. And of course, we wanted to talk about another Extra Turns episode and not an Extra Turns episode. So check out commanderspellbook.com. Such a cool resource. We really love doing this episode after all the previews have come out. If you want to find us online, I'm on Twitter at Andy Flory.
And I'm on Twitter at WormCoilEngine. Of course, we want to give a special thanks to Ryan Nichols, our producer and editor. Thank you so much for everything that you do. And Chris Wolf, who handles all of our graphic design, which you can see all that on our YouTube channel. He's making all of our thumbnails for our Commander gameplay, which we know that even the professor has seen and says, way to go, these look really great. So thank you, Chris, for everything that you do. And to all the listeners out there, we will chat with you next week.